You do not need money, you need leverage. The truth is quite simple. The most intelligent people in the world do not necessarily work harder, they multiply their effort. They use the power of leverage while most people spend their days trading their time for mere scrap. The wise, on the other hand, build systems that earn for them even while they sleep. They do not chase opportunity, they engineer it. They do not wait for luck, they build a structure that makes luck irrelevant. Leverage is the quiet, unseen force behind every great empire, every immense fortune, and every individual who started with nothing and built everything. Because when you truly understand the concept of leverage, you no longer ask, how can I do more? Instead you ask, how can this work without me? In this message you will learn how to build leverage, even when you have nothing, no money, no team, no connections. Just your mind, your discipline, and your vision. This is how ordinary men and women can create extraordinary results. Let us begin. You have been told your entire life that success requires money, power, and a great deal of luck. You have been led to believe that those who possess resources will always win, and those who do not simply cannot compete. But look closely at the world. If that were true, every wealthy man would remain rich, every privileged child would grow into greatness, and every genius with abundant resources would leave a significant mark on the world. But they do not. Because resources alone do not create success. The real engine behind every great achievement is the ability to create leverage, to use what little you have in ways that no one else can see. Napoleon Hill once said, "More gold has been mined from the minds of men than from the earth itself." And he was right. Your mind, your ideas, your focus, your faith, that is the true mine. Everything else is just raw material waiting to be shaped by the person who knows how to use it. The person with a poor mindset says, "I will start when I have money." The person with a rich mindset says, "I will start because I have imagination." The difference is leverage. Let us expose 3 lies that helped millions of people trap. Lie number 1. I need capital before I can begin. No, you do not. You do not need money, you need resourcefulness. Money is merely the shadow of value. If you can create value, a solution, an idea, a skill that saves others time or energy, money will always find you. That is the fundamental law of exchange. Leonardo da Vinci did not start with investors. He started with a notebook, an insatiable curiosity, and the discipline to observe the world until its patterns revealed themselves to him. That notebook became his factory, his portfolio, and his empire. In today's world, that notebook is your digital mind, your notes, your frameworks, your systems. You can build leverage by writing, recording, teaching, or building tools that multiply what you know. Every sentence you publish, every guide you create, every system you document becomes a form of intellectual capital. And intellectual capital is the purest form of wealth. Lie number 2. I need connections to grow. Connections do not precede success. Value does. People do not follow those who merely talk. They follow those who build. You do not need access to the powerful, you need proof of your work. Show your skill. Create something real. Share it. Your creation, whether it is a piece of writing, a design, a tool, or a project, is your handshake with the world. When you provide value first, you create a kind of gravity. You attract people who want to move within your orbit. That is how networks are truly formed, not through begging for attention but through becoming valuable. The right people do not respond to noise, they respond to a clear signal. Be the signal. Lie number 3. I need luck. Luck is not a cause, it is a consequence. It follows structure. It follows motion. Those who move often enough will eventually collide with opportunity. Those who never move will never collide with anything at all. Leverage replaces the need for luck, because when you build systems that compound, systems of learning, creating and connecting, luck becomes inevitable. Your effort multiplies through time. Your past work begins to work for you. That is leverage in its purest form. If you have no money, no connections, and no platform, you still possess three assets that no one can ever take from you. 1. Your attention. Where you place your focus, your energy will flow. 2. Your time. How you invest it will determine your trajectory. 3. Your mind. How you think defines the limits of your world. The person who masters these three things can build leverage from thin air, because attention becomes knowledge, knowledge becomes systems, and systems become freedom. Every great empire began in the same way, with one mind deciding to see the world differently. Da Vinci looked at water and saw the principles of flight. Hill looked at thoughts and saw the nature of wealth. You can look at your present circumstances and see the potential energy waiting to be multiplied. If you are waiting for permission, stop, or if you are waiting for the right conditions, realize this: conditions never become right until you make them right. The moment you start using what you already have, your world will begin to expand. Your ideas will start to move. And motion, not luck, is what creates miracles. So, the question is not, when will I have enough? The question is, how can I use what I already have in a smarter way? That is how the person with nothing begins to rise, by learning to turn what is invisible, their focus, their ideas, their will, into something that moves the visible world. That is the secret of leverage. And in the next chapter you will see what leverage truly is, not as a theory, not as motivation, but as the mathematics of exponential growth that every great builder lives by. Because the moment you understand leverage, you stop asking for opportunity, you start creating it. Most people misunderstand the word leverage. They think it is about tools, technology, or money. But leverage is something far deeper than that. It is about energy. Leverage is the ability to multiply your results without having to multiply your effort. It is when one small, intelligent action produces an outcome that continues to grow long after you have stopped touching it. Every person has energy, but only a few know how to direct it effectively. Most people simply push harder. The wise, on the other hand, position themselves better. That is the difference between effort and leverage. Effort depletes, leverage compounds. Imagine two men pushing a large rock up a hill. The first uses only his back while the second uses a lever. It is the same rock and the same hill, but one struggles while the other rises with a relative ease. The world rewards the second man, not because he is stronger, but because he understands the mechanics, the hidden mathematics of movement. That is what leverage is, the mechanics of success. And in this chapter we will break it down into 5 key dimensions, 5 levers that every great builder uses, whether consciously or not. 1. Mental leverage, the power of thinking differently. Leverage begins in the mind, because your thoughts are the very first tools you can ever control. Napoleon Hill wrote, "Thought is the starting point of all riches." When you learn to think beyond your perceived limits, you access an infinite resource, your imagination. Every great idea, every invention, every fortune was born first as a single thought that refused to die. When your belief expands, your actions evolve, and your world begins to rearrange itself to match that new vision. That is mental leverage, changing your reality by changing your thought. 2. Time leverage, turning your hours into asset. Time is the great equalizer. You cannot get more of it, but you can make it work harder for you. Most people spend their time, builders invest it. They trade their hours for systems, not just for wages. 1 hour spent building something that can run itself, a process, a piece of content, an automation, will pay you back for years to come. That is time compounding. That is leverage. The person with a poor mindset says, I am busy. The person with a rich mindset asks, is what I am doing scalable? 3. Knowledge leverage, multiplying what you know. Knowledge is not power until it is applied, but once it is organized and shared, it becomes a powerful multiplier. You can learn one new idea today that will save you 1,000 hours tomorrow. That is knowledge leverage. And when you share what you know, through writing, teaching, or creating systems, that property can work for you even when you are resting. It becomes your invisible workforce. Every great thinker from Da Vinci to Hill built libraries, notebooks, and frameworks to store their insights. They were not just collecting ideas, they were building machines of thought. 4. Network leverage, expanding through others. No one succeeds alone. The most powerful form of leverage is people, but not in the way that most people think. It is not about using people, it is about aligning a purpose. When you create value that serves others, you become magnetic. People will bring their skills, their reach, and their influence to amplify your own. Napoleon Hill called it the mastermind, a union of minds driven by a definite purpose. When 3 aligned people pull on the same rope, they can outperform 30 people who are all moving in different directions. Your network becomes your multiplier, your invisible army. 5. System leverage, the engine that never sleeps. Finally, we come to the most advanced form of leverage, systems. A system is anything that can repeat a success without requiring your constant presence. It is a process that automates your effort, stores your knowledge, or delivers value while you are resting. This is how you turn chaos into order. This is how you escape the trap of trading your time for money. When you build systems, you create machines that compound your energy through time. They are your mechanical leverage, your bridge between freedom and exhaustion. These 5 levers, mind, time, knowledge, people, and systems, are the architecture of freedom. Each one stacks on top of the other, and each one amplifies the next. And the truth is this, you do not need all 5 to begin. You only need one, your mind, because that is where all the others are born. When you change your perspective from I must work harder to I must build smarter, your energy can multiply overnight. Your 8-hour day can become an 80x return. That is the real definition of leverage. It is not about money, it is about multiplication. It is the art of making small moves that can move the world. And in the next chapter you will discover the first and most important lever of all, the one that begins in silence and ends in power. Mental leverage. Everything begins in the mind. Every success, every system, every empire, and every failure. The mind is the first factory of all creation. If you can think it, you can build it. If you can see it clearly, you can pull it into existence. That is mental leverage, the invisible power that multiplies everything you touch. Most people spend their lives trying to escape their circumstances, but wise individuals escape their thinking first. Because no matter how far you may move, your results will always follow the patterns of your mind. Napoleon Hill once said, "Faith is your only infinite resource." Think about that. You can lose money. You can lose status. You can lose your network. But as long as your mind still believes, you are never truly poor. Your mind is the original lever. Everything external is just an echo of the internal. Every result is a mirror of your thoughts, magnified through time. When Hill studied over 500 of the world's most successful individuals, he found the same pattern. They all thought differently long before they achieved differently. They spoke in terms of definiteness, clarity, and faith. They did not just wish for things, they commanded them. They understood that thoughts are not weak or fleeting. They are a form of energy, real, measurable, and magnetic energy, that shapes our behavior and draws matching conditions to us. When your inner dialogue shifts from, I can't to, I will, everything else begins to rearrange itself. You will attract different people. You will notice new opportunities. You will make different moves. The world adjusts to the frequency that you broadcast. That is not magic, it is mechanics. Your mind filters your reality according to your beliefs. If you believe that your limits are real, you will find proof of them everywhere. If you believe that possibility exists, you will find pathways that others overlook. This is the first form of leverage, belief engineering. Change your thinking and you will change the multiplier that drives all of your results. Your faith is a force multiplier. Faith is not about religion. Faith is about a focus that is held long enough to become your truth. It is the discipline of seeing what is not yet visible and acting as if it already is. Hill called it autosuggestion. Modern science calls it cognitive priming. But the effect is the same. The subconscious mind obeys repeated instruction. When you write down your goal daily and speak it with conviction, you are programming your nervous system to recognize patterns that are aligned with that goal. You become tuned to opportunity, and opportunity does not pass by the person who is tuned to receive it. Faith turns thought into movement. Movement turns into momentum. And momentum turns into manifestation. That is how every breakthrough begins, not with favorable conditions, but with unwavering conviction. The greatest prison in the world is built from invisible walls, self-doubt, fear, and the illusion of realism. People will say be realistic, but realism is often just a polite word for limitation. Hill once wrote, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Those who laughed at that sentence never tested it. Those who practiced it changed history. Mental leverage means refusing to think small. It means rejecting the comfort of maybe and replacing it with the discipline of must. You can start by upgrading your internal vocabulary. Replace I will try with I will. Replace I hope with I decide. Replace if it happens with when it happens. The language you use trains your mind to either obey or to hesitate. And hesitation is the death of leverage. The person who doubts their own power gives it away. The person who affirms their vision multiplies it. Da Vinci used paintbrushes. Edison used wires. Hill used words. You have your thoughts. Every invention, every business, every piece of art begins as a mental image, a picture that is rehearsed so many times in the mind that the universe eventually conforms to it. Your imagination is not a fantasy, it is a blueprint. It is the design phase of your reality. And when you discipline that imagination, when you pair it with persistence, you activate the strongest force on earth, focused thought in motion. That is mental leverage. Think on purpose, to visualize deliberately, and to hold a vision until it hardens into fact. Most people chase leverage in the external world. They look for tools, contacts, or capital. But everything you will ever need begins inside your own mind. If your mind is disorganized, your life will mirror that chaos. If your thoughts are disciplined, your results will mirror that order. So, before you seek leverage on the outside, build it on the inside. Train your thoughts. Guard your words. Direct your focus. Because the person who can command their own mind will never lack a lever. And in the next chapter you will discover how to extend that leverage through time, how to make every minute of your life work harder for you, long after the moment has passed. That is how ordinary hours can become extraordinary results. That is how time itself can become your servant. Time, anti-is. It is the one resource that every person is given equally, yet most people treat it as if it were endless. We all wake up with the same 24 hours, but not all hours are equal. For one person, an hour is just time passing. For another, that same hour becomes a seed that keeps growing long after the clock has stopped ticking. That is time leverage, the art of turning moments into momentum. The poor trade their time for money, the rich trade their time for systems. Most people live on the wrong side of time. They sell it hour by hour, task by task, and call it making a living. But that is not truly living, that is leasing your life. Napoleon Hill wrote, "The man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does." That is not about working harder, it is about working smarter. It is about building something that compounds. You can either spend your time or you can invest it. Spending gives you comfort today, investing gives you freedom tomorrow. When you use your hours to build systems, habits, routines, or assets, you are creating machines that will continue to run even when you are not there. That is what separates the worker from the builder. The worker asks, "How can I earn more this week?" The builder asks, "How can I make what I do today pay me for years to come?" Every hour has a multiplier. Think about this, not all hours are equal in value. Some hours will repay you again and again while others will disappear forever. An hour spent complaining is lost. An hour spent building a process is compounding. An hour spent learning a new skill is expanding. Every decision you make about your time is an investment decision, and the rate of return depends on what you choose to build. If you use your hours to create something that can outlive the moment, a book, a video, a system, a framework, a piece of automation, that hour will keep earning for you long after you have forgotten it. That is how one well-structured year can outperform a decade of random effort. Time is energy with direction. Most people think of time as being linear. It is not. Time bends around your focus. Where you place your attention, time will expand. Where you scatter it, time will evaporate. That is why multitasking can kill your leverage. It divides your power. A divided person cannot multiply their results. Focus can turn 1 hour into 10. Distraction can turn 10 hours into 1. The math is brutal, but it is true. The most successful people on earth are not busier than you are. They simply know what to ignore. They treat their calendar like a sacred ledger. They trade their hours for impact, not just for activity. Because activity can look like progress, but leverage feels like momentum. Leverage through time means consistency over intensity. 1 focused hour every day will always beat 10 unfocused hours once a week. Da Vinci did not create his masterpieces overnight. He studied the same subjects for decades. He understood the law of compounding. Small progress, repeated relentlessly, becomes an unstoppable force. That is how mountains can erode. That is how fortunes can grow. That is how habits can shape our destiny, not in sudden bursts, but in a steady rhythm. The person who repeats the right thing long enough will always outrun the one who chases everything at once. Momentum rewards patience. Here is the secret. Automation is just time, leverage disguised as technology. When you automate a task, you are extending yourself through time. Every automation, every workflow, every email sequence, every habit loop is a time replica of you. It is your silent worker, your invisible employee, your mechanical clone. You cannot buy more time, but you can build systems that buy it back for you. That is how the greats operate. They build machines that can move even when they are resting. Hill called this the power of organized effort, turning chaos into a process and a process into freedom. Time is not the enemy, it is the amplifier. Most people fear time because they think it is running out. But time does not run out, it either runs with you or against you. When you drift, time becomes a form of decay. When you act with direction, time becomes a form of compounding energy. Every day you are either building leverage or you are losing it. There is no neutral ground. That is why success rarely comes from explosive effort. It comes from quiet discipline, repeated over time. If you can understand this, you will stop saying, "I do not have time," because you will realize that time was never the problem. Your focus was. Time leverage turns your minutes into multipliers. It transforms your effort into assets. It gives you control over something that most people think is uncontrollable, the speed of your own growth. And once you master time, you can master motion itself. Your days will start to work for you instead of against you, and your future will begin to show up faster than you ever imagined. Because when you respect time, time will start to respect you. In the next chapter, you will learn about the one force that can shape time, energy, and destiny itself, discipline. The lever that can turn ordinary effort into extraordinary results. When you have nothing, no money, no team, no power, you still have one tool left: discipline. Discipline is the lever that can move every other lever. It is the bridge between knowing and doing, between wishing and building. Napoleon Hill said, "Discipline gives shape to desire." Without discipline, desire is just smoke, beautiful, but useless. With discipline, that smoke becomes a fire. Most people wait to feel ready. They wait for inspiration, for perfect timing, for some invisible signal that says, "Now you can start." But that signal never comes, because motivation will fade. Discipline stays. Motivation is emotion-driven. It is like the weather, changing with your mood. Discipline is decision-driven. It is like architecture, holding firm no matter what the weather may be. Every person who has ever built something lasting has learned this truth. You do not rise when you feel strong. You rise when you move, despite feeling weak. Discipline is a form of leverage because it multiplies your effort over time. It can turn small, ordinary actions into an unstoppable momentum. Think of discipline as interest on your effort. Every consistent act deposits a little more energy into your future. One workout does not make you strong. One study session does not make you wise. But do it daily, and one day you will wake up transformed. That is the secret behind every overnight success. It was not luck. It was compounded discipline, invisible, repetitive, and sometimes boring, but exponential. You cannot see it growing at first, and that is why most people quit. They do not realize that results are always delayed reward. The disciplined person plays the long game. They plant now, knowing that the harvest will come later. And when it comes, it is always worth it. Discipline is a choice, not a trait. No one is born disciplined. It is not in your DNA, it is in your decisions. Every day you choose either comfort or growth, and that choice repeated becomes your identity. When you choose to wake up early, when you choose to focus instead of scroll, when you choose to finish instead of quit, you are building leverage inside your own nervous system. You are teaching your brain that you can be trusted, and the world will bend for the person who can trust themselves, because self-trust is the rarest form of confidence. It is proof that you will show up even when it is hard. Discipline does not remove the struggle, it redeems it. It gives your pain a purpose. Here is how discipline becomes exponential: when you automate it. You do not need willpower every single day, you need structure. Decide once, and then remove the choice forever. Wake up at the same hour. Start with the same ritual. That's your work, not your excuses. The disciplined person does not waste energy deciding if they will do it. They just do it. That is how energy compounds. That is how willpower turns into rhythm. And rhythm is where your power lives. Hill called this organized effort. Modern science calls it habit stacking. But it is all the same principle. Discipline is the seed, routine is the soil, and leverage is the harvest. Let us, discipline can be painful. it is supposed to be. That pain you feel when you resist a distraction, that is your old self dying and your new self being born. You can either suffer the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. One sharpens you, the other breaks you. The undisciplined person drifts. They live reactively, moved by their mood and their circumstances. The disciplined person moves deliberately. They live by design. And the universe responds to design. Discipline does not just build habits, it builds your identity. And your identity is the most powerful leverage you will ever possess. Because once you become the kind of person who follows through, everything else in your life will begin to rearrange itself around that fact. The person who controls their habits will control their outcomes. The person who controls their emotions will control their destiny. Discipline is not a punishment, it is freedom disguised as effort. It is the price you pay today to buy your future tomorrow. So when it hurts, when it feels boring, when no one is watching, remember this: you are not just doing the work, you are building the lever. And that lever will move everything that comes next. In the next chapter we will extend this idea beyond the self and into others. Because once you have mastered yourself, the next form of leverage is people. How to build powerful networks when you have nothing to trade except your own value. That is where the true expansion begins. No one builds greatness alone. Every empire, every movement, every fortune, it is all built on people. You can start alone, yes, but you cannot scale alone. People are the most powerful form of leverage, because one aligned mind can multiply your vision faster than any tool, any strategy, or any dollar ever could. Napoleon Hill called it the mastermind principle. He said, no two minds ever come together without creating a third, invisible force, which may be likened to a third mind. That third mind is where ideas can turn into power. Most people get networking wrong. They chase people instead of becoming valuable. They want to receive before they give. But relationships are not built through need. They are built through a mutual exchange of value. When you focus on giving, on helping others to move forward, your very presence becomes magnetic. You will attract people who operate at a higher standard, because they will recognize the same energy in you. Here is the truth. You do not need to know powerful people. You need to become a powerful person. The world will always rearrange itself to support the person who creates value consistently. So start small. Serve where you are. Offer your skills freely at first. When your work can speak for you, you will never need to beg for attention. Your network will form naturally around the energy that you emit. Not every crowd is your community, and not every connection is a form of leverage. You do not need thousands of followers, you need 3 aligned minds. 3 people who share your rhythm, your vision, and your integrity. Hill discovered this pattern in every successful partnership. One person creates, one person organizes, and one person amplifies. That is the smallest ecosystem of success, a triangle of trust where each person multiplies the others. When you find your 3, protect them. Feed that bond with accountability, with purpose, and with shared action. That is real leverage. That is collective power. True networking is not about what you can extract, it is about what you can contribute. If you enter every relationship asking, how can I be of service? You will become irreplaceable. People will remember how you make them feel, not what you ask for. And when your intention is to elevate others, they will naturally elevate you in return. That is not just a strategy, it is a universal law. Energy will always return to its source, multiplied. So give knowledge, give encouragement, give clarity, and do it without any expectation of return. You will be surprised at how fast the universe starts sending the right people back into your path. When 2 or more disciplined minds come together around a clear purpose, Their combined focus can create something that Hill called infinite intelligence in motion. That is not a poetic idea, it is a practical one. Because collective focus can accelerate your growth. When you brainstorm with people who challenge you, who do not let you settle, who question your ideas until they either break or improve, you will expand faster than you ever could alone. A powerful circle does not just flatter you, it sharpens you. It makes you uncomfortable enough to evolve. And that discomfort, that is where the gold is hidden. Be the person you want to attract. If you want to be around honest people, be honest. If you want to be around disciplined people, be disciplined. If you want to be around visionaries, live with vision. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. Your energy will introduce you before you even speak, and your consistency will prove whether you belong in the rooms you enter. That is why the work you do in silence matters so much. Because every private victory will earn you public allies. People can feel your discipline before they ever hear your story. And when they sense it, they will trust it. Here is the equation. One person acting alone can create progress. 2 people who are aligned can create velocity. 3 people who are united around a vision can create a momentum that does not stop. That is why Hill's mastermind groups produce so many millionaires. They built a shared current, where each person's energy was amplified by the others. This is not about followers or likes, it is about resonance. The moment you connect with the right minds, your vision will expand, your ideas will evolve, and your results will accelerate. Because together you will move not as individuals, but as a force. You do not need to know everyone, you just need to know the right ones. Those who build while others talk. Those who show up when it is hard. Those who move in truth, not in noise. When you find them, do not let your ego ruin it. Serve, grow, build, and repeat. This leverage is not just about machines or systems. It is about people, the living catalysts who can multiply what you could never achieve alone. In the next chapter, you will learn how to build a form of leverage that no one can ever take from you, the leverage of knowledge. Because what you know, once it is organized, can become a form of wealth that grows forever. Knowledge is only power when it is organized, directed, and applied. Napoleon Hill said, "Knowledge has no power until it is organized into definite plans of action." Most people collect information but never convert it into leverage. They hoard facts, they read endlessly, they take notes, and they never act. That is not learning. That is digital hoarding. Real knowledge is about movement. It is information in motion. When you know something and you apply it immediately, it becomes an asset. Every skill, every insight, every experience you have ever gained is potential leverage, waiting to be activated. You do not need another course. You need to turn what you already know into action. Knowledge is the most democratic form of leverage. You can acquire it for free, and no one can take it from you. But it only grows in value when you use it. Hill studied individuals who turned their knowledge into fortunes. Edison with electricity, Ford with mechanics, Carnegie with organization. None of them invented knowledge, they applied it differently. The person who knows how may always have a job, but the person who knows why will always be their boss. Knowledge, combined with understanding, can multiply your influence. When you understand the principles, not just the processes, you can build new systems from nothing. So, start here. What do you already know that others may ignore? Maybe you have learned how to stay disciplined, how to communicate clearly, how to lead a small team, or how to solve specific problems. Each of those things is raw material. When you teach it, document it, or package it into a guide, you have turned your knowledge into a form of property, intellectual real estate that can work for you while you sleep. You cannot own time, but you can own information. A person who writes down their method owns a system. A person who explains their results owns a framework. That framework can be sold, licensed, scaled, or taught. That is leverage. Knowledge also compounds. When you learn a single idea deeply, it will connect to everything else you know. Each concept can become a bridge to 10 more. That is why disciplined learners can become unstoppable creators. They do not just consume information, they integrate it, test it, and improve upon it. But there is a danger. Learning can become a form of procrastination in disguise. Endless study without execution can create a false sense of progress. Real learners measure what they apply, not what they read. After every new lesson, ask yourself, where can I use this today? The faster the cycle between learning and doing, the stronger your leverage will become. Knowledge leverage also demands humility. You must stay curious, open, and willing to be wrong. Pride can kill your progress because it closes the door to correction. The wisest people never call themselves experts, they call themselves students of life. Every experience, every conversation, every mistake is another classroom. And remember, shared knowledge will multiply. When you teach what you have learned, you will both strengthen your own understanding and attract others who value growth. That is how communities can form. That is how opportunity can find you. The teacher often grows faster than the student. So, take your lessons, systemize them, and give them structure. Turn your insights into steps. Turn your steps into frameworks. Turn your frameworks into systems. That is the transformation from mere knowledge to true leverage. Your mind is like a bank. Every idea you record is a deposit. Every plan you execute is a withdrawal with interest. The more structured your deposits are, the richer your future will become. You do not need to know everything. You just need to organize what you already know and put it to work. Knowledge leverage is the reason why one person can create an empire from a single idea, while another can spend decades working hard and staying stuck. The difference is not intelligence, it is direction. So, organize your thoughts, write down your process, build your playbook. Because once your knowledge takes shape, it becomes a power that cannot be stolen, copied, or lost. It becomes the foundation for the next level of leverage, faith and vision, the energy that can give life to everything you build. Before any great result is born in the physical world, it exists first in the invisible one. Faith and vision are the twin levers that can move your reality from a thought to a tangible form. Without them, no system can endure, no plan can hold, and no person can continue when everything seems lost. Faith is not a blind belief, it is a disciplined conviction. It's the ability to hold a picture of your future in your mind long enough for your actions to make it real. Napoleon Hill said, "Faith is the head chemist of the mind. It combines thought with emotion and turns an invisible desire into a visible result." When you add faith to your effort, you give your ideas power. Most people let their environment define their vision. They look around, not ahead. They see their limitations, not their blueprints. Faith reverses that. It teaches you to see the unseen, to believe in what has not yet appeared. Every great inventor, leader, and builder carried an image of a world that did not exist, until it did. Da Vinci saw machines that could fly centuries before we ever touched the sky. Hill saw a world where thought itself could create wealth. That kind of vision does not come from sight, it comes from the spirit. It comes from the quiet decision to say, even if no one else believes this yet, I will. Faith is a form of leverage because it multiplies your endurance. It keeps you moving when your results are slow. It turns your setbacks into signals. Where doubt sees a failure, faith says, feedback. It whispers, keep going. The process is still unfolding. Without faith, every obstacle can feel final. With faith, every obstacle becomes a part of the design. Vision is the blueprint of your destiny. It is not just a dream, it is a detailed map of where you are going and why. A person with a vision walks differently. They wake up with a sense of clarity. They make their choices with a sense of purpose. They do not need constant motivation, because they can already see the destination. That image in their mind acts as a compass, pulling them forward through chaos and distraction. But a vision without faith is a fantasy, and faith without a vision is blindness. Together they can create a momentum that cannot be stopped. Vision defines the target. Faith fuels the journey. One gives you direction, the other gives you endurance. To build your faith, you must feed it. You cannot expect your belief to grow on a diet of fear, comparison, and noise. Guard your mind like it is sacred ground. Read words that elevate you. Listen to voices that build you up, not break you down. Surround yourself with those who remind you of what is possible. Faith grows through repetition, through speaking, writing, and reaffirming your vision daily. That is why Hill taught autosuggestion, the practice of planting faith into the subconscious until it becomes your law. Every morning, every night, repeat your purpose until your mind accepts it as the truth. Because once your subconscious believes, your behavior will obey. And how do you strengthen your vision? You make it concrete. Write it out. Draw it. Describe it in vivid detail. The people, the place, the feeling. The more specific your vision is, the stronger the magnetic pull toward it will be. The brain cannot distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is physically real. It will begin to align your perception, your habits, and your decisions to close the gap. Faith is the bridge between your imagination and your execution. When fear says, "You can't," faith replies, "Watch me." When the world doubts, faith builds. When others wait for proof, faith creates the proof. That is how all transformation begins, with one person believing with absolute certainty that something greater is possible. There will be days when you cannot see the path, when your progress feels invisible. Those are the days when faith must become your engine. Do the work even when the results are silent. Keep building even when no one notices, because faith's reward always arrives later. It compounds quietly and then it can explode suddenly. The most powerful men and women in history were not always the most skilled or the most educated. They were the ones who refused to stop believing. They saw what others could not, and they acted as if it was already done. That certainty became their leverage. Faith and vision together can transform a person from a worker to a creator. They no longer react to life. They design it. They do not chase opportunity. They attract it. Their belief can bend the world around them until it mirrors the image that is inside their mind. If you can hold on to your vision through your moments of doubt, you will outlast everyone who could not. That is a form of leverage, the ability to stand still in the midst of chaos and still see clearly. And when your faith and your vision have aligned your inner world, the next step is to translate that alignment into a structure, systems that can multiply your actions. Because even the strongest vision needs a form of machinery to move it. Discipline can build your momentum. Faith can give you endurance. But systems can give you freedom. A system is any process that can deliver results without needing your constant presence. It is the invisible machine that keeps turning, even when you stop pushing. That is the highest form of leverage, energy that can repeat itself. Most people do not fail because they lack talent. They fail because they rely on their memory, their emotions, or their motivation, instead of on a solid structure. Structure will win where emotion will waver. Systems do not care if you feel tired or inspired. They run anyway. Napoleon Hill called this organized effort. He discovered that every successful person had created a definite plan, a repeatable process for producing results. Edison had a testing system. Ford had an assembly system. Carnegie had a management system. They did not guess their way forward. They built frameworks that could multiply every ounce of their effort. A system begins with one question: what works and how can I make it work again? If you have done something once that produced a good result, you already have the seed of a system. Your job is to capture it, to document it, and to repeat it. When you turn chaos into checklists, when you turn your ideas into steps, you are transforming your willpower into automation. That is leverage. The person without systems starts from zero every day. The person with systems starts from a place of progress. Systems can free your mind. They can allow you to think, to create, and to lead instead of just reacting. They can protect your energy from being wasted on things that have already been solved. A system does not have to be complicated. It can be a simple routine, a set morning ritual that tunes your mind before the day begins. It can be a weekly review, an hour where you can track what worked, what failed, and what to improve. It can be a workflow, a simple checklist that ensures quality, speed, and consistency. What matters is not how elegant it looks. What matters is that it exists. Because once something is structured, it can be scaled. You can delegate it. You can automate it. You can duplicate it across your projects, your teams, and your time zones. That's how ideas can turn into organizations. Da Vinci's notebooks were systems of thought. Hill's 13 principles were systems of achievement. Both men understood the same truth: structure is what can make success predictable. Without a system, you have to depend on your effort. With a system, you can depend on your design. Every system you build becomes like an employee that never sleeps. An email sequence that can nurture your clients automatically. A content library that can educate people while you rest. A product pipeline that can keep serving value without your direct touch. Each one is a small engine of leverage, compounding silently. And here's the paradox: the more systems you build, the freer you will become. Because true freedom is not the absence of structure, it is the presence of intelligent structure. When your actions are organized, your mind is free to create. When your habits are automated, your energy is free to expand. When your vision has a system, your dreams will finally have a path. Building systems is how you can multiply your own identity. Each system is like a copy of your intelligence, working for you while you move on to something greater. This is how the ordinary person can begin to build an extraordinary reach. They write things down. They measure their results. They refine and they repeat. Soon, what began as one simple routine can become an entire ecosystem of progress, an organism that can feed itself. If you want to scale your life, you must scale your systems. You do not need more goals. You need processes that can guarantee them. You do not need more hours. You need loops that can repeat your best work automatically. You do not need more talent. You need a structure that can amplify what you already do well. That is why every builder will eventually become an architect of systems, not just of dreams. Your job is not to chase results. Your job is to design a process that can make your results inevitable. When you build a system that can work without you, you have created true leverage. It is the point where your ideas can become engines, and your time can become infinite. And when your systems start to move on their own, you will reach the final stage of transformation: momentum. That unstoppable force that can carry you from zero to abundance, from survival to significance. Every journey begins with a certain amount of friction. When you have nothing, no audience, no capital, no recognition, every step can feel like it is uphill. But the secret of momentum is simple. You do not need to move fast, you just need to keep moving. Momentum is leverage in motion. It is the compounding effect of small, consistent action. It begins as something invisible, and then it can become unstoppable. You cannot see it forming at first. The results may seem too small. The effort may seem too high. But if you stay in motion long enough, that motion will start to work for you. The person who learns to move through resistance will become powerful. The person who waits for perfect conditions will never begin. Napoleon Hill said, "A quitter never wins, and a winner never quits." Momentum will reward the person who refuses to stop. When you are starting from zero, your first goal is not mastery, it is movement. Action will always beat analysis. Progress will always beat perfection. Every imperfect attempt will build your data, your skill, and your confidence. Each repetition is like a vote for your future self. You cannot steer a parked car. Once you begin to move, even slightly, you can correct your direction. But if you never start, there is nothing to correct, only excuses to defend. At first, you will move slowly. You will make mistakes. You will question whether it is working. That is normal. Every system, every empire, every masterpiece began with a sense of uncertainty. The difference between those who succeed and those who fade is simple. The successful ones stayed in motion long enough for their momentum to arrive. Momentum has its stages. The first is resistance. Your mind will fight to keep you comfortable. The second is discipline. You will act without emotion, building a steady rhythm. The third is acceleration. Your results will start to compound. The fourth is flow, where your effort will begin to feel effortless, because your systems will now be carrying you forward. To build momentum, you can focus on these three principles. 1. Consistency will always beat intensity. You do not need to sprint, you just need to show up. 1 page written daily can become a book. 1 workout daily can become a transformation. 1 call daily can become a network. Momentum is the reward for consistency, not for speed. 2. You must measure, refine, and repeat. Momentum is data-driven. Keep a record of what you do, what works, and what fails. Review it weekly. Improvement can turn your motion into mastery. Every refinement can save you future energy. It is leverage for your next iteration. 3. You must protect your rhythm. Momentum is fragile. 1 day of rest can help you to recover, but 1 week of excuses can erase a month of progress. Guard your focus like it is gold. Avoid distractions, negative environments, and draining people. Your rhythm is sacred. Protect it at all costs. Momentum can grow through your identity. When you start to say, "I am the kind of person who finishes what I start," you will begin to act accordingly. And soon, the world will respond in kind. Opportunities will begin to appear. The universe will reward the person who refuses to drift. Remember, momentum is a living force. It will grow with your faith, your systems, and your persistence. It will feed on your clarity, and it will die in your hesitation. Keep feeding it. Keep showing up. Keep your eyes on the vision you have built, and let each day push you 1 step further into the life you are creating. Because momentum does not care where you start, it only cares that you do not stop. Every small step, every consistent act, every disciplined moment will compound quietly until one day the world may call it sudden success. But you will know better. You will know it was not sudden. It was a result of your structure. It was a result of your leverage. It was a result of your persistence. When you begin from a place of nothing, your first victory is not wealth or recognition. It is momentum itself. Once it starts rolling, it will become your ally, your engine, and your invisible partner. And that will bring you to the truth that every great builder eventually discovers. you never really started from nothing. You always had everything you needed: your mind, your faith, your time, and your discipline. You just had to use them. Now, the lever has been built. The system is in motion. The energy you have created will continue to compound as long as you stay committed. This is the power of leverage in its purest form. You are no longer pushing the world. You are guiding the momentum that you have created. And that is where your transformation begins. You never started from nothing. You started with a mind that is capable of creation, a will that is capable of discipline, and a faith that is capable of endurance. The world may tell you that success requires resources, but the truth is, you are the resource. Your thoughts are your first form of capital. Your time is your first investment. Your discipline is your first structure. And your belief, that is the fire that can turn it all into motion. You do not need permission. You do not need luck. You do not even need certainty. You only need movement, focused, consistent, and intentional movement. Because the person who keeps moving, no matter how small the steps, will eventually become unstoppable. Leverage is not something you find, it is something you become. When your thoughts align with your actions, and your actions align with your purpose, the universe itself will begin to bend in your favor. So, do not chase opportunity. Do not chase wealth. Build leverage, and let opportunity chase you. Remember, from this moment on, you are not just working harder, you are working smarter, deeper, and with a sense of purpose. You are no longer pushing the world. You are guiding the machine you have built. And every day that you show up, every system you refine, every ounce of faith you protect, you are turning your mind into an engine of freedom. So go, take what you have learned here and act. Start building your own leverage today with your focus, your faith, and your fire. Because you never really had nothing. You have always had everything you need. If this message has sparked something within you, please subscribe to this channel. Every week we will build together new lessons, new systems, new strength. Do not just watch, grow with us. Comment below, I am the leverage, and watch how your life begins to multiply.